Christians always be bitching that we used to have a Christian country and now we keep losing our Christian country.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. People are complaining about yes. They're upset about that.
People are yes.
Okay.
So okay. First question: Do you wish that wasn't so?
Okay. Do I wish that our country was more Christian? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. Than it is right
now. Well, sure. I wish. In other words, this is what I mean by that. I wish our country had more Christians in it, because that would mean more people would be saved.
Okay.
And therefore, but because there would be more Christians, obviously that would also be reflective in our own policies and laws. So, sure.
Okay, so then why do you go to other countries and try to make them Christians before fixing your own country and making them more Christian?
Okay.
That doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Because one Sunday, the pastor will get up there and be like, can't believe all these people, the next generation, blah, 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 not following the Lord and doing all this, blah, blah, blah. And then the next week, they send 20 teenagers to wherever and try to convert them to Christianity.
Okay.
And so why is, if the trend is bad in America, which according to every bit of every Christian right now, it is.
Right.
Why are we sending people to other countries to make them Christians instead of doing it here?
Okay, that's fair. All right.
I don't get it.
Okay.
Just on a logical level, I don't understand.
Okay. So a couple things I want to say to this.
Okay.
All right. Number one, so actually in our own country, we're actually seeing a tick back up toward individuals becoming Christian.
Okay.
So it's the first time, seriously, it's the first time in like 25 years we're actually seeing a rise in Christianity.
Okay, so for those 25 years, why did anyone go to any other country instead of everyone staying here and trying to reverse the trend sooner?
Yeah, no, I got you. So I guess I don't feel like it has to be an either or proposition.
But shouldn't it be?
No, I don't think so. Like, all right, here's why. Here's why.
Okay.
Here's why. Because the reality is that Jesus even Jesus himself, even though his own ministry started in Galilee, right? Like that's predominantly where they were. They were moving around all over the place, trying to share, not trying, but sharing the gospel, seeing people get healed, all those kind of things. And so the message was spreading. And so even when he's about to ascend, after resurrection, he's about to ascend, Acts chapter 1, verse 8, he's talking to his disciples and he said, hey, when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, you're going to be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea and Samaria, and even to the ends of the earth. And so it's true that when the Holy Spirit is poured out on the day of Pentecost in Jerusalem, and 3,000 people are saved in a day, and then we have numbers that are added, later on throughout. So the church of Jerusalem is growing, but they didn't just stop there, right? Persecution ends up happening, and then they have to flee because of that. And so some do stay, but then others go throughout Judea, but in particular into Samaria. And then you start seeing the movement of Christianity going from, Judea, Samaria, that part of the Mediterranean world up, right? So it's pushing up to what we now know as like Turkey, and then over and into Europe, and so into modern day Europe. And so it's spreading. My whole point being is Christianity has never been a movement that's just been localized into one area where they all hunkered down and were like, hey, we only need to care about what's happening right here. That's never been the case for Christianity.
Okay, but given our current world political stuff,
sure.
If America stopped being Christian, wouldn't the whole world be screwed?
Okay, well, no, the whole world would not be screwed.
I mean, wouldn't you say kind of, though?
No, and here's why. This is what I would say.
Okay.
I would say the world wouldn't be screwed, but our country would be. But Christianity is growing so rapidly in South America and in Africa and in even parts of Asia, like India, for example.
Yeah, because all of our missionaries keep going over there instead of focusing here. That's what I'm saying. I don't get it.
No. What I'm saying is,
let's just let America go to shit, and we can all move to Africa. Let us in. We'll be slaves for you. As long as we can be Christian without persecution.
You can't say that.
I don't understand.
Okay. We're definitely not keeping that. All right. So.
I don't get it.
I know you don't get it. All right.
Of course they are. Of course. You were just there. You weren't here. I don't get it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Wow. All right. No, but Christianity is exploding in those countries. Not just okay. Listen to me. Not just because there's all these missionaries from other countries that are there. It's because Christianity is exploding in those countries because they're sharing the gospel themselves amongst their own countrymen, and so there's this explosion of Christianity that's happening.
Then why?
I know.
Then why do you need to go there? I don't get it.
No. Okay.
Everything you keep saying is
well
then.
All right. Right. No. Okay. All right. No. All right. I feel like I should have brought books with me. All right. Because at this point, it's I want to read from different scholars that are both Western and coming from third world or majority world. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So there's a couple of things that are happening that you're not wrong in. All right. So. All right, here's where you're not wrong.
Okay, thank you.
Here's where you're not wrong. Is that the reality is that the mission movement is shifting. It is transforming. Mm-hmm. It's not what it used to be. Okay?
Okay.
Here's what I mean by that. What it used to be was that individuals from America or Europe, those missionaries would go, right? Because they had to. We needed people to go to share the gospel. I
mean, they didn't have to.
Okay. Okay. You're right. They didn't. No one had to, but they chose to, right?
Right.
Because these other countries, these other areas needed the gospel, right? So individuals go, and so they needed gospel. They needed humanitarian aid. They needed hospitals. They needed all those basic things, and so there's they needed wells dug so they could have clean water and all this stuff, right?
Okay.
So. That was the missions movement that was really prevalent happening in the 20th century. Okay. And so through the 18 and 1900s, man, that was missions. Okay. But then as we kind of turn the corner, if you were, into the 21st century, there was a shift. There has been a shift in the missions movement because now it's not just in missions. Even when I was in theology school in the early 2000s, there was a lot of conversations of how the theological center of education and those kind of things would eventually shift to Central and South America and or Africa. Because as Christianity was declining here, it was growing exponentially there in those countries. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I know. So this is where I'm saying you're right, because there's been a shift away from what ministry has been and to what it is now. And that's why I'm saying I do think that I think there's still need. There's still a need for missionaries in other countries. Okay. We still need missionaries in other countries. There's nothing wrong with the missionaries going into areas and helping, to strengthen and encourage churches and help bring equipping and training, or it may be that missionaries feel called to go there and actually help them with the humanitarian stuff, or it could be that they go there to help them because there's a desperate need for a focus on how can we help end human trafficking, for example, right? And so I think there's a desperate need for missionaries throughout the world going, and not just from the West. This is one of the big shifts. It's not just from the West or from I'll say from the West to majority countries, it's now missionaries are being sent from various countries to various countries. And I think that's a cool endeavor.
That's part of why this doesn't make sense.
Right.
So why don't all of us just all stay in our own countries and do our missionary stuff in our own country?
Because I do think that's like, for me, the body of Christ as a whole actually needs one another. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Like, we need each other.
Again.
And so there's individuals that are in majority world, and they're like, hey, we really could use training. Hey, we really could use discipleship tools. Hey, we really could use help can you help us in these, particular, endeavors? And so, like, I think there's need for that. But what's cool is that there's missionaries and scholars and theologians, that are rising up in these other countries as well. Like, even in my own cohort at Asbury, in my doctoral program, there were individuals in my own cohort that were from India and from Africa, and that's awesome, So there's scholars and theologians being raised up in these countries as well. And thank God for them. And because they're going to be a significant help and to their own countrymen and to us, to give, like, one of the coolest things was to hear from them toward us, hey, this is what we see in America. This is what, to hear their words to us is awesome. And so there's a lot for them to teach us as well, is what I'm saying. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think there's a need in missions that's more specific than it used to be. Okay.
Okay.
It used to be we needed to flood these countries with missionaries so the gospel could get out. Okay.
Okay.
And then when the churches started growing, people started coming to know Christ. All right, now we got to really train and raise up pastors and those kind of things, right? But now you're finding Bible schools and all this kind of stuff in all these different countries now. It's not just America. And so that's the cool part, right? So, like, we'll see them get raised up and trained. And yes, there's still a lot that we have to offer and to them, and they have to offer to us. And so I think that's a beautiful part. So that's what I'm saying. I think missions can be much more specific, right? Like, I think missions can be a much more targeted endeavor than maybe it used to be. All right.
Okay.
But do I think we just need to end all? No, because I think we're missing the point if we do that. Because it's not
point
just
of what?
It's not just the point of, because I think at this juncture, it's not just at the point of seeing people get saved. They need us for that, or they need us to, send money, I think we're beyond those points. Okay. Now, I do think monetary assistance can be a big help. Okay. I'm not downplaying that. But I think we've moved beyond those points to where now it's a global community in the sense of we're actually can share with each other, can grow with each other. I think that's a significant part. So what I'm saying is I don't think we should ever be cut off from the global church as a whole. But in America, I don't disagree with you in the fact that we do need to focus. And I think there has been. I think that's why we're actually seeing a little bit of a trend turning. Okay.
I don't think that's why we're seeing a trend.
Okay. Well, this is why I think we are.
Okay.
It's because I think I think one of the things for me that's been really interesting to watch the church in America deal with is political issues, moral issues, social issues, even policy type issues. And I think there's becoming a clear distinctive between the more progressive churches and those that are, believe that Christ, is the only way, that the scriptures are true. And they're going back. What I'm saying is they're going back and they're teaching scripture. They're going back to simple gospel. And I think that is insanely appealing to people who just never had that growing up. And so I do think there's been a turnaround as churches as a whole, like even like ours, but that's cool for me because it's way more than just like our little church here. Like all these churches are like just teaching Bible and teaching gospel and showing people, man, this is actually what it looks like to follow Christ. And I think there's been like an awakening in that sense. And especially among a younger generation who did not grow up going to church. And so they're hearing about Jesus' gospel Bible, maybe not for the first time, like we're not completely post-Christian where they never heard the name Jesus, but they really don't know anything about him. They don't know anything about it except for maybe their own stereotypes of what Christianity is or what this religion is. But when they're encountering the simple and true gospel, the genuine gospel, and Jesus and his word, I think something is appealing about that. Because I think it's connecting with something that all of us want to connect with, and that's being something of greater than us. So that's why I think you're right. We need to give more attention here. I think more attention has been given here. And I do think we're adjusting how we're engaging with missions across the world. And so I think all of this stuff has actually been transpiring over the last 20 years.
Okay.
It's just we're starting to maybe now see the fruits of it at this juncture.
I think religious people are just having more children.
Well,
and the non-religious people, everything they stand for is anti-children. And so it's just, 1 + 1 = 5.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's definitely a part of it.
You know what I mean?
Right. No, I mean, that's definitely a part of it is that, yeah, your religious individuals, especially your Christians, your evangelicals, your Catholics, those, they're having more kids than non-religious, than the quote unquote the nuns, right? Those that are non-religious. And so like that's I think that's a big deal too. But I do think, to me, what's been interesting is to see the effect of people just having an encounter with the true gospel, maybe for the first time, and responding to that, because I think it does resonate with them. And I just, I don't know, maybe we're finally got to a generation that's just tired of all of what maybe your generation, not to throw all the millennials under the bus, valued.
I thought you were a millennial also.
I'm a Gen Xer.
Ugh!
Yeah.
Our generation's terrible. We suck. Yeah.
Y'all kind of do.
I'm doing this. This is...
You and every other millennial has a podcast.
Right.
I know. And so...
It's like, you have a podcast?
Oh, my God. Yeah. And... So, but I mean,
the other guy's white too.
Yep, I know. Just a oppressive jerk. All right, so but even as like, it's nothing like Gen X has anything to brag about either. I mean, like our, we were just rebellious for the most part.
Yeah.
And just anti everything establishment.
Yeah.
And so that's Gen X.
Guess I'll be management.
Like whatever, yeah. So, but I do think, when you hit the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha, there's definitely a turn amongst that age range, the young Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas. So, So I think we can do both, Nate. I think we can engage in missions, and I think we can also focus here.
All right. Well, then everyone needs to stop complaining. Because if you're going to go to another country and leave your dying Christian country behind, then shut up about it.
Oh, no, again, it doesn't have to be like just because I took a mission trip to Colombia, it doesn't mean I was like, well, screw you, America, for the next week or months or whatever.
But Dad, we're going to get persecuted next week because we're Christians, because no one's else is Christians anymore. Don't care, kids. I'm going to Colombia.
Right.
I mean, you don't feel like...
No, that's not at all how I felt. No.
Kind of seems like it.
Zero.
I don't understand. I know you just explained it to me, but I still don't get it.
What's so hard to understand about the fact that you can do both? I don't understand why that's hard to get your head around.
The question is, should you be doing both? Not can you do both?
Sure, you should be doing both.
But okay.
All right, but I do think it's a good point. All right, here's what I would say. The things that we're doing in other countries, like sharing gospel, right?
Yeah.
Helping people who are in need. I think actually in America, we got away from our local churches doing that here.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with that. We got away from that. And what I'm saying is that we can do both. So anything that we're going to do in other countries, let's make sure we're doing here as well.
Yeah, but why wouldn't it be like 90-10 or
but I think for
95-5?
But I think
until we reverse the trend.
Right. But I think for a lot of churches, to be honest with you, it probably is 90-10.
Okay.
Unfortunately, this is where I think the unfortunate part is. I do think it's 90-10 in regards to 10% of our maybe budget and interest and time to other countries, 90% here. What I think the problem became was that the 90% of our time and budget and interest here was not on sharing gospel and was not on reaching our community with local needs.
Okay, so why aren't you focused on trying to get other churches to make sure that 90% is spent the right way?
Okay, so why am I not?
Yeah, why are you in a foreign country instead of making sure that other countries
or other churches,
other churches are spending their 90% correctly? Why is that more important than that?
I don't know if there is one more that's more important than the other. I don't think me going to Colombia is more important than going to build a wheelchair ramp for someone in our community.
But you did one and not the other. You spent your time doing one and not the other.
But I built a wheelchair ramp with a group that built a wheelchair ramp 3 weeks ago.
I didn't mean to make this personal.
No. All I'm saying is but all I'm saying is you're creating this dichotomy to me that doesn't have to exist. Right? Like I can give time and interest, and resources to, because it's like for me, so I get to pour into these pastors and leaders at this conference, right? So I have an opportunity to preach and teach, with 120 or so pastors and leaders, from churches all throughout Colombia. Wow, so then they get to take that and have an impact in their own areas, right?
I guess I'm looking at it like, okay, so the whole thing about if I don't have enough food for my own family, then I shouldn't be inviting the neighbors over for dinner.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Okay, so that's the comparison I'm trying to draw.
Okay.
If I'm leaving according to your Christian logic of our country is dying, or it has been for 25 years and it just turned around.
Right.
Then if I'm leaving a not Christian country for my kids to grow up in, why am I trying to make a better country for other children to grow up in?
Yeah.
By making that a more Christian country, if our standard is more Christians in the country equals better country.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
That's the distinction I'm trying to draw. Right. I don't understand.
Right. And I guess what I don't understand is I take 1 week, 2 weeks, right?
Okay.
For me to go do, and that's what most people are doing, right? If they're leaving the country on a mission trip.
And I realize I'm saying this to a pastor who is 98% here doing pastor stuff and just spend a week somewhere else.
Right. And so, And I think...
And I'm criticizing you for a week.
Right. That's kind of what I'm getting to.
I know. Right? I get it. But
so for me, that doesn't, for me, again, if I have an opportunity to go, and it doesn't have to be like I'm leading like this. If I get an opportunity to take a team and we're going down to Guatemala and we're helping them, again, whether it's build eco stoves or make water filters or helping them with a well or whatever, right? I just think that, okay, so you're doing that for 2 weeks or whatever it may be. And you got a team with you and that's what you're doing. You're putting your money into it, your time into it. So that's cool. So that's that 2 weeks. But the reality is what? I mean, of our church family, maybe 5% are going to go on a mission trip in a given year, in other words, so 95% of the people in the church then are here the whole time. Right. And I think this is where when I said the time, the resources had been misused by churches in America for a long time.
Yeah.
We weren't training people to go out and share their faith. We weren't training people to go and make disciples.
So why aren't you here trying to fix that?
And that is what I just wrote a whole freaking dissertation on it. What are we talking about? And so, I mean, I'm going to give you a copy.
I haven't seen it.
I know. I'm going to give you my copy. And God Almighty. And so, anyway, I just got notification it's being published. But anyway, regardless.
Really?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. And so
then we can do an episode on it.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So final copy's all done and all that
Good.
kind of stuff. So I should have a copy within the next month, maybe. And I ordered an extra one. To let people borrow. I'll let you be the first one to borrow it, so you can read it and then then critique it and
critique
then
the hell out of it.
Right? Why did you write that?
Yeah.
That's stupid. Yeah. And so, anyways, so I think that I do think that for me, that's what I was talking about earlier. That's why I think that's one of the things that's changing is I do think a lot of pastors are getting back to equipping their own people to share the faith, to make disciples, to be engaged in community need.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's been a movement of getting back to that. And I think that's been so desperately needed because for let's say from the 80s up until, let's say we'll go early 80s to early, 2020s, somewhere around there. Like, I think a lot of it was focused on, we got to build up our own church. We're going to create all these programs. We're going to have all these, everything come to us is what I'm getting to. Like, let's all go to the church. Every time the doors are open, let's bring people to the church. And I think what we were not doing is preparing people to go back out into the world. Or we were consuming all their time with them trying to be at church for all the different programs. They never even had a chance to hang out with people outside of church. And so I would hope now what's happening is people are engaging in the marketplace. They're engaging in their neighborhoods. They're engaging in whatever community activities. And they're able to be able to say, hey, and feel equipped to actually share their faith with somebody. Feel equipped to actually sit down and go through a Bible study with someone and make, that's the goal in our church. Someone asked me the other day, like, what is your goal in 5 years? And my goal would be that our church would be like so thriving with people leading people to Christ, making disciples, elders teaching, individuals leading Bible studies. Man, I could drop over dead in 5 years and they'd be like, we'll miss you, but we're going to keep going. Like, the ministry is just that thriving. Does that make sense? And so I think for me, just because of hanging out in the pastor world with other pastors, I feel like there's been a shift and people are starting to think that way again.
Okay.
And so I think that's a huge difference. And hopefully we can take advantage of a younger generation that is looking to reconnect with God. And the word religion doesn't maybe scare them as much.